All right, so email marketing and why does it matter? Email marketing is a sub niche within the digital marketing space, and it's probably one of the most important skills that you might want to learn while you're here. Now, email marketing, and this is going to be our topic for today, email marketing 101, getting your message to their inbox. There's a difference between how casuals use email marketing, and there's a difference between how businesses use email marketing. And the biggest difference is that when businesses start using email marketing, there are regulations in place that make sure that privately you are in compliant with the law. This is why when you're clicking when you're signing up for something and you're clicking by filling out this form, I acknowledge that I am agreeing to the terms and conditions of this website. That is a requirement by law. If a business or a website does not have that, then they may be subject for they could get sued, especially if that business is based in the US. In the Philippines, maybe not so much. You know how we run things here. But yep. So without further ado, what do you expect for this video? Okay, so overview, I'm gonna be teaching you guys the basic lang of email marketing and creating campaigns. Number two, we're gonna talk about deliverability. How the heck do we make sure that your emails go to your list? And how to use tools and best practices that you can use when you're building or when you're creating email. Of course, let's start with the three types of email. The first one is transactional. Transactional, basically, when someone buys something from your website, you're sending this email as an order confirmation. Another form of transactional email is when someone schedules an appointment with your website. Promotional, you have basically added someone to a list and hopefully you added these people with consent. This is why it's very important, how the list was made determines the quality of the list. So if when you're list building, when you're creating a list, what does a list mean? A list is basically an email list of people where you have their emails. And it's you making sure that they are there with consent. They've consented to get to receiving emails from you, to getting promotions from you, and all of that, right? You don't want to buy a list from somebody because by sending out promotional emails, you could blacklist your own domain. So, what does that mean? Na blacklist ka. That means that your business is more likely to be considered harmful for people. Therefore, it will go to the spam folder. Okay? Promotional emails are emails where you're sending them to a list where you're talking about your offers. Hey, there's a Black Friday sale, there's a Thanksgiving sale, there's a Christmas sale, there's a Hanukkah sale. That's and all of that. Next is relational email, an email where you're building rapport with your list. Okay? So it's very important that not only are you not selling to people in your list, you're also building a relationship because emails are king. Now, you could have 10,000, hundreds of thousands of followers on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, but the moment that these platforms decide to sanction you, you lose all power in digital marketing. Whereas if you have a list, you own its traffic that you control. By taking the words of my mentor, Russell Brunson, it's traffic that you own. And that means that now, since you own it, you have the capacity to build a relationship with them and improve the list even further. These are the three types of emails. And there are two ways to send these emails. There are two ways to send. So you either broadcast them, so you have a list, and then you broadcast one email to the entire list, or when they get, and then the second way is when they're triggered. Broadcasting might require certain platforms or software. Definitely, you might need G Suite. I don't know what they call themselves now, but you might need G Suite for sure. You might need a SMTP, Mailgun, Active Campaign, MailChimp, etc., etc. And then the other thing is triggered. What does that mean? A lead did a certain action, therefore they got triggered. For example, when they made a purchase. So when someone makes a purchase, automatically you send a transactional email. When someone schedules an appointment, that's another. You send a transactional email. When someone replies to a conversation, what kind of email do you send? Who knows? Depends on how you want that set up. When someone replies, could be 3 days before an appointment. Point is that you set conditions wherein an email gets triggered when the conditions are met. So, and again, emails should always feel like they're talking to people. It should always be as if a person is the one talking to them. So it depends on how your brand works, right? So there are brands where they use the business as the face of the company rather than a person. But at the end of the day, you should at least make people feel as if they're talking to a real person when they're receiving these emails. Your content is also influenced by your relationship with the recipient. That means that again, you should not just be buying lists. Most businesses, what they're doing is that they're scraping leads all over the internet. I know because I've done this too. It's one of the services that we have where we give people a list of thousands of lists that's related to a business that they're targeting. But these people have not built a relationship with you. That's why it's very important that you have lead magnets, or you've formed a sort of agreement for these people. And how did you get their emails, right? How was the list made? That's very important. And this is why you, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, should always map out a customer value journey for this list. And for those of you who don't know, there's a separate video for the customer value journey. But this means is that this is a means where you can guide your lead into becoming your ideal customer. So there's an awareness stage where you're building a rapport. It's just basically it's just like dating. All right. So you're in the awareness stage. You and the lead have noticed each other. Now you're trying to engage in a conversation with them. Maybe it's through free, maybe it's through a lead magnet, right? Free coffee, comments. Maybe you've been making content or you've been talking about Harry Potter, anything that interests the leads, and you're offering something. Subscribe, you're offering the first date. Hey, are you available for this? And you're trying to get their phone number. Okay? From here, after you've gone through the first date, you don't immediately sell to these leads. You have to build a relationship with them until such time that you get their commitment and they become your customer. So the conversion stage happens when the customer basically gives you money or gives you their time. Okay? And of course, now that you're in a relationship with them, it's time to excite them, right? Bring them value, bring them results, give them something to look forward to. And now ascend, you can upsell. And then they become raving fans, they advocate for you, get them more, bring them up until they become people who would promote you at the in a heartbeat. And that's basically the customer value journey. You map that out. How do you want to turn this relationship with someone? Where do you want it to lead? And unlike a real relationship, a romantic relationship, business relationship is polyamorous. You can have as many partners as you want, right? And of course, we have to go into the types of email campaigns. Okay? Number one, there's the indoctrination campaign. The indoctrination campaign is basically a campaign where you send these the moment that someone joins your list. An example of that would be a soap opera sequence. So Russell Brunson would nurture the leads based the indoctrination sequence would always involve a soap opera sequence. So just a soap opera sequence is a type of email that copies what the framework of a soap opera is. So it starts with high drama, it tells a story, and then at the end of the email, you cut it off with a cliffhanger, making them want more. You're not selling it, you're just telling a story. And two you do that for 2 to 3 times. And then on the fourth email, that's where you start giving them an offer. So that's the climax of the story, basically. All right, so maybe I'll make a video on the soap opera sequence and some examples. But for now, let's focus here. So, after the indoctrination email, there is what you call a conversion email. An email where you're trying to turn people who got into your list through lead magnets, something you offered for free, right? Or you ask them out on a date and actually turn them into paying customers. So now you're sending out conversion emails that would help them convert into high paying customers. And then the ascension campaign is basically once they become customers, you're going to bring them up the ladder. So if you have, for example, for people who are Apple is a pretty good example. Their first product that most people buy from Apple is actually not their iPads or Macs, but it's their iPhone. People who own iPhones sometimes don't have MacBooks. But the moment that you get into their ecosystem, the moment that you buy that first iPhone, even if it's the cheapest one, and the moment that you experience what it's like to have an iPhone and an iPad at the same time, to have an iPhone and a Mac at the same time, you're hooked. That means that you start becoming a premium customer. For example, that's exactly what I am. I have almost every Apple product, even their stupid. To be fair, it is pretty good. Their stupid AirPods Max. I don't even know how I got there. But the point here is that Apple has done such a good job that they're able to elevate the experience in such a way where their ecosystem is something that their users are naturally drawn to. That's ascension campaigns. Next, segmentation. What does segmentation mean? Just like how there are VIP customers and there are regular customers, you segment them so that the message becomes relevant. There will be people who will, if we go back to Apple, there will be people who have iPhones that don't have iPad. And maybe they don't want iPad exclusive apps on their iPhone news. Okay? Or maybe you have people who like, yeah, let's stick to Apple. So you're basically creating a list where you are curating content based on how they interact with your company. Okay? You don't treat a new customer like a VIP customer. You treat them well, you treat all your customers properly, but you do not treat them as if they're VIP customers. Because, or else, how the heck would you ascend them into the process? Okay? Exclusivity. So, not having to line up anymore, not having to not having a special place in your bar or restaurant only for them, right? Think of stuff like that. Segmentation. How do you segment a list? And of course, there is also re-engagement. When you're cleaning a list, When you're maintaining a list, you need to remember that part of your job is also to make sure that your list is quality. And the way to do that is by also getting rid of people who are not engaging with you. A re engagement sequence will help if you're like me. I have a list of over 10,000 people and I have not communicated with them for a while. And ideally, with email marketing, you should communicate at the very least one or two emails every single day with these people. Again, there are multiple types of emails, but but focus on relationships. Okay, you're building relationships with these people, so that's the re-engagement campaign, and the re-engagement could because of something very specific. I have a new news. There's new ownership in the company. We have a new product. We have new direction. Why? Create a soap opera sequence, a story, a show that these leads would be interested in. Make sure they're relevant. And if it's not, then it's time to clean up. They've become stale. Right? If in a number of months or days that these leads do not respond to you, it could actually hurt you if you keep sending them emails. It could hurt your domain or your deliverability. So that's gonna be interesting. Okay? So cold campaigns. What if, despite everything that I've told you guys, you still insist on doing cold outreach? That means you're willing to buy a list and then spam people. Send these guys messages that you have a new offer or a new business. Okay? So your initial email should not lead to selling or a sales page. Okay, it should always start with a lead magnet. You need to offer something free first, or something of value, something free and of value first before you start selling to these guys. Bakit? Why? You need to build a relationship. Okay, and what's the best way? The best way and the first way to start is always with lead magnets. Okay, you always start with lead magnets, and there are five types of lead magnets. The first one are downloadable reports. Downloadable reports are basically in exchange, hey, I've seen one of my friends do this, and he's an all-out expert on book sales. So what he does is that, hey guys, I have spent $100,000 on testing ads for books. Do you want that data? So now we know what works. Do you want that data for yourself? Alex Hermosi would always would have a track record of over 100 businesses scaled to seven figures, and he would offer a downloadable report. Isn't that something that you would be willing to give your email out, your email and phone number to get? Of course, the price is that we might send a promotion for you. But then again, at least now we have consent. When you're sending a cold email, now you're giving them an opportunity to give consent that they will be, what's the word I'm looking for? They will be contacted and promoted. All right. Next, widget tools templates. So, for example, one of the biggest, when ChatGPT went out, one of the biggest lead magnets that came out were widgets that help people make prompts. And there were also a lot of templates, prompt templates, like 105 prompt templates to ensure that you can use ChatGPT to its maximum. I would argue that you don't need those prompts if you know your business well. Okay? You don't need those prompts if you know your business well, but a lot of people don't know what they're doing, right? So don't want to think. So ChatGPT is the way. Robert Kiyosaki would use templates or widgets like an Excel file as a means, his financial statement as a means to make his list. He would also use an online version of his board game as a means to create a list. Assessment, quiz, survey forms. So how many of you know your MBTI? Right? Are you an ENTP, INFJ, whatever? What about your Meyer Briggs? What about your DISC? Are you dominant? Are you intuitive? Are you compassionate? What about your what's the word I'm looking for? Your Enneagram. Are you a two wing three or a two wing one? Right? So a lot of these people, Gallup, do you know what your top five strengths are? So a lot of these organizations use assessment quiz surveys, or maybe let's go simple. Are you a Hufflepuff, a Gryffindor, a Slytherin, a Ravenclaw? Right? So a lot of these businesses would use assessment quizzes, surveys as a means for a lead magnet, and then they would upsell you a service that would help with that. So that's what that is. Videos, webinars, online events. If you guys noticed, I actually use this for people in the what's the word I'm looking for people who are in the official Facebook group quite recently. I made a video and I offered it if you guys want this video for free. Actually, you know what? I'm even gonna use this video as a means to get more people in the group, right? Email marketing, and the and that's it, right? Coupons, contests, discounts, self-explanatory. Sign up or pay 50 pesos and you get a chance to win a MacBook Pro. Sample lang yan, right? These are the potential lead magnets that you can make if and only if you're going to keep going. Sorry, if and only if you are gonna do a cold campaign and at least bring them to a lead magnet first. So now that's part one. Now we're gonna talk about how to get inside their inbox. So this is gonna be an interesting thing. Email providers actually score you. Email providers actually score you. You actually have to have, oops, yun. You actually have to have a very good email score if you want to reach their inbox. So some of those factors are sender reputation. Are you in compliant? Are you not scamming people? Are you connecting or building relationships with your list? Email content. Does your email contain links? Does it have an unsubscribe button? Does it have a means for people to opt out of your list if they want to? How does your recipient engage? Do they click on links? Do they reply to your emails? Etc. etc. Authentication, DMARC, DKIM, SPF records, those are technical, but basically when you're setting up an SMTP, you would already be doing this by default. Okay? How many people complain about your content? And of course, frequency and volume. You are only allowed to send a certain number of emails per minute, every 8 minutes for a time before you're able to blast out immediately. You need to earn their trust before you're able to do an email blast to a list of 10,000 people. And that's interesting. How do you keep your email score up? Simply put, number one, avoid spam triggers. And the best way to avoid spam triggers is by nurturing your list properly. Your CVJ, that's the key. That's the most important thing. Don't send emails that reported you as spam or have spam protectors. Okay? If people unsubscribe, let them go. If they broke up with you, let them go. This is not a Katniel thing. You don't have an Andrea Brillantes in your life. That's okay. Just let it go. And again, back to authentication, DKIM, SPF, DMARC records. And again, I mentioned this, regularly clean your list. People who don't engage with you may not deserve to be there anymore. If you're truly building a relationship with your list, then your emails have value. That means if your emails have value, you're giving out your heart for these people. So your emails already being a part of your list is reward enough. So know your value, right? Engage only active users and of course buy a dedicated IP. But when you're setting up your SMTP with funnels, whenever you're building funnels, you'll be able to do that on your own. Now, there are a lot of softwares that you can do, that you can use, but ano tawag dito? There is no software I recommend more than GHL. So this is a group. So CV is using GHL, and bakit why GHL? Their GHL is using Mailgun. It integrates with Mailgun, which is the most compliant and cheapest email solution you'll ever get. And it has workflows. So remember, there are two ways to send emails. You broadcast an email and then they get triggered. Workflows are a way for you to do that. And that's pretty much it for email marketing. All right. So hopefully you guys learned a lot. See you on the next webinar.